Hi, so in the last video, we walked through kind of how you're going to gather data for this job ad research. So let's move forward and remember, getting a job is a job, and recognize what you can do when you're trying to figure out what to do next, where to go, nothing makes sense, gather data. So that's my first point. Gather data, figure out where you are and where you need to go next. How do we do that? Remember, you're going to submit two documents. You're going to collect data, and then you're going to summarize it and apply it. So in the last video, you saw this table. Now, what is comparable here? So what could you use? Well, you're looking for trends. And in this case, if you're looking at this, you may want to put everything in bullets. It's easier to read over here on what's expected for the jobs. So there are expectations. But you notice that all three of these analyst jobs in Dallas have this same high range. What's interesting is here we have a senior business analyst, and here we have data analyst and business analyst, and they're all topping out in the same area. So we note that two of these are pretty comparable, right? We have 9 years experience and 6 years experience. We have query and agile that kind of give you a sense of like you would want to work on your query skills with databases. You would want to know more about the agile process, that software development process, which is being applied in other contexts now for development. You would definitely want to focus on SQL. These are easily comparable. And so here you have two and possibly a third job that you could compare. Then that might give you room to compare further. Now, if it's 6 and 9 years experience expected, this is not a now job. This is not a 3-year job. So you can set your times that you're going to look at jobs and really look at what they're expecting, what they're wanting. So this is more a mid-range job. So you're putting this all together and you're asking yourself, what other data do I need to get? What other jobs do I need to look for? What do I need to think about? And what is this memo going to look like? So here's an example of a student memo. Now you can't read everything, and I don't want you to. You're going to create your own. But you can look at this and get a sense, okay, on a one-page memo, what is this going to look like? What am I trying to do here? Here's another student example. So here we have another example, and you can glance at this and you can already get a sense of how it's going to be graded, at least as far as first impressions, because you don't necessarily have to read every word to understand that something is organized. So you're looking at white space, you're looking at consistency, you're looking at organization and whether this looks professional. So these are both memorandums. Here's another one. This is set up slightly differently, but it is consistent. Each level is treated the same way. And this person has made certain decisions about what belongs in a table and what he wants to have as text. That's fine. We have goal of memorandum, overall goals as headings, entry-level expectations, mid-range. Some of these are 2-year, 5-year, 20-year. We have common expectations, so that this part has been broken out so that you look at relevant experience and expectations, and then here's what's common as we go all the way through, and then we have a little key here at the bottom. The asterisk notes the goals. So as we look at these, we think about white space. How is white space used? Well, white space draws attention to things. That's why the memo format is so powerful. We have white space up here at the top that allows us to glance at it and know what this is, what it's supposed to be doing. We also have a standard organization. Look, we have our headings bolded, and they're the same. Next, 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 and then the number. They make sense. I can glance at this and have a sense of what it is and why it's important. Consistency. Again, treat things the same way. So once you establish expectations for formatting, for using headings for your text, follow them. So when we look at assessment, what am I going to be looking for? Well, the first impression, you need to have a one-page memo. Can it be longer? No. Format. It needs to be in correct memo format. So it needs to look like a memo. Do not type, "this is a memo," and have it not be a memo. You're turning in a memorandum. It looks a particular way. Organization. You need to have headings. You can have both lists and tables, or you can just have lists or tables. So there's some room there. It must be easy to skim and understand. There should not be heavy, thick paragraphs. There should not be super wordy areas. You do not have paragraphs longer than 8 lines, and even that is a stretch. Trim everything down. Consider that most people don't like to read, so I should be able to glance at this and have a real sense that you've done a lot of work. Is that more work for you? Yes. Yes, it is. Make sure it's consistent, make sure it's professional and polished. Use the direct approach. A specific concrete statement of goals at the beginning, your major, your preferred career path, and an overview of what you've included. So what did you do? Tell people what you have done, what you used, how you approached this. Then include any assignment modifications in an explanation. So if you are taking the road less traveled by and you're going to law school, and your now or the next 2 years process is about applying to law schools, so you looked at law schools and law scholarships, then explain that. That's fine. I don't have a problem with you preparing yourself to be accepted into law school or medical school, or becoming an eye doctor or a dentist. Great. Please do so. Just modify this assignment. You can talk to me about it beforehand, and explain how you've modified the assignment. So as we look at these, note how these meet the assignments. These are both one page. They're both in correct memo format. Hooray! I can glance at the top, I can glance at the bottom. This is one page. Organizations. Do they have headings, lists, and tables? Yeah, here we have headings. We have some bolding here, so it's easy. Note how consistent that is. We have tables that are incorporated too. You don't have to have tables, but this actually makes it easier in some ways, because I see exam, software experience, education, and salary, and those are things I really want to know. And then we have other information. Is this consistent? Is it professional and polished? You should be able to look at other people's work and tell that. So here's another one. This one doesn't have any tables, but it's consistent. It seems professional. It seems polished. It has an approach that makes sense for this person. Here we have goals, 2-year goals. I'm not a huge fan of underlining, but this has been applied pretty consistently. This is a little bit odd, but it doesn't look that strange because it's summarizing these. And then we have our little asterisk at the bottom that explains things. So the direct approach, you want specific concrete statements. So that purpose here at the top, this project's purpose was to identify my career path for the next 2 to 20 plus years. You want to talk about the goals, your major, and what you want to do. If you have kind of 2 or 3 paths available to you, you can explore all of those paths, or you can emphasize one, but indicate that, that's another one that you want to follow up on. You may want to, on your own, without me grading it, go through this process for your own work. So you might want to go through this process for something else, just to make a decision about what major or minor to pursue. You're going to have that overview of inclusions and include any assignment modifications. So it's a lot to do in a short space, but you can do it. How else will this be evaluated? You have to have the required research. So there should be a short-term internship or job that's now or within 3 to 5 years. All of these things, companies, job titles, locations, requirements, preferences, and salaries should be indicated. So look in your field and figure out what you're looking for. You also need to do the same thing for mid-range and long-term. Now, can you have more than 5? Sure. Maybe if you're looking at 2 different coasts or 2 different towns or cities, maybe different countries, you're going to want to look at this and see what you can find. If your long-term career path is not something that's typically a job, you're going to be an entrepreneur, then go talk to some entrepreneurs and figure out what you need to have under your belt and come to them with good questions, solid questions that will help you make decisions about the next 2 to 10 years. So for your next steps, which is what I'm evaluating, and it should be included in your memo, talk about the goals and the application of your research. Now that could be as simple as that clear explanation for how goals are indicated. It could be a little key at the bottom that says an asterisk marks the goals that have been established for the next 2 years or for the next, however long. The goals should be present for each career stage, easily identifiable and related to the job ad. So if you have a goal that includes pursuing SQL based on that table that showed you, okay, SQL is something that mid-range jobs want, then, include that. By at least the mid-range point, you need to have some real experience with SQL and databases. And maybe that will affect your short-term goals in that you will want to make sure that you have an elective that looks at databases or a main project, and maybe you're going to put more time in that class and do something special. In the end, you want to have a professional document. Whether I glance at it or whether I sit down and read it for 10 minutes, it needs to be carefully proofread and edited. It needs to be polished. It should be able to be presented to a client or superior without any changes. So you need to consistently get in the habit of creating documents that your boss would say, yes, that's fine, that's polished, great job. Do people always say that? No. Often they want some input, but be aware that that's your goal. You want them to get to the point where they trust you to consistently put out professional documents, and you need to create a process and find the people who help you create professional documents. So proofread, edit, and then submit the documents on e-learning. And keep a view of the wider purpose. You're planning the work and working the plan in your life. So planning the work sometimes means you step back and you do things that you don't get paid for, that allow you to sharpen your saw, as some people say, to go out and cut down trees tomorrow. The things that make you a better person and more capable sometimes mean an investment in yourself now that doesn't immediately yield an outcome. So plan, think ahead, put it all together, let it rumble around in your head for a while, kind of like a rock polisher, and then have a better idea of how you want to pursue these goals and dreams. All right, I hope this has helped, and good luck. Bye.